This man found an abandoned baby moose in front of his door who looked as if she needed some help. What he did with her might shock you. Moose are incredible animals. They are incredibly large, very beautiful, and a sight to behold if you are lucky enough to see one in real life. But they aren't usually the kind of animals that you would see in your garden. So when Ericus Plucus arrived home to find one sat outside of his gate, he was shocked. The story happened back in 2016 in a small town in the country of Lithuania. Ericus's day had started out like any other. He had woken up and decided to do some chores in town. After spending a few hours outside completing his chores, Ericus returned home. But when he arrived home, things took a turn for the unusual. As he approached the gate at the front of his house, Ericus noticed a large object lying in front of it. As the man got closer, he realized what it was. It was a baby moose, but the animal wasn't in the best of shape. The first sight of her was heartbreaking, said Ericus in an interview. She was starved, dirty, sad, her fur was infested with flies, and she was so terrified of me when she first saw me, but was too weak to run away, to even get up. The baby moose was definitely not in the best shape. But where had this young creature come from, and where was her mother? Usually a mother moose will be incredibly protective of their young, and it would be unusual for the large beast to not be around her baby to look after it. So, where was she? Well, Ericus had an idea about what might have happened, but it wasn't a happy one. The man believed that the poor baby's mother had most likely been shot by hunters, leaving the tiny animal terrified, alone, and in danger of dying from starvation. He guessed that the baby had run off as soon as the hunters had started shooting, and had looked for the nearest safe place to hide. At first, Ericus didn't know what to do with the young animal. He had never had to care for something like a moose before and had no clue where to start in order to make sure that the animal was okay. He first decided to call a local animal shelter and explain the situation to them. Sadly, they did not offer much help and simply told Ericus to leave the young moose alone, and that they would send someone out the next day to assess the situation. Worried for the baby moose's health, Ericus settled the young animal into his barn for the night and gathered some leaves and milk to feed the animal before retreating to his own bed. The next day, some volunteers from the local animal shelter arrived, but they didn't bring good news with them. After looking the moose over, the volunteers told Ericus that there wasn't anything that they could do for the creature, other than calling some local hunters to put her out of her misery. They believed that without her mother, the young animal wouldn't survive long, and that it would be kinder to make sure that she didn't suffer. Despite what the shelter told him, the kind-hearted man knew that he couldn't just do that to the poor baby, nor could he leave her to fend for herself. He tried calling a few of his friends to see what they would say, but they were as clueless as he was about what to do for the moose. So, Ericus did the only thing that he could think of. He kept the young moose and took her into his home. He discovered that the animal was a girl and decided to call her Emma. But with this new addition to his home, Ericus had some quick learning to do. He needed to figure out what to feed the baby animal and how often she needed feeding, and any other possible items or care she might need. After searching around on the internet, Ericus discovered that he would need to feed Emma every 4 hours, which is how often her mother would have fed her had she still been around. It wasn't long before he had established a routine with the young moose, and was at her beck and call to feed her every few hours. The kind-hearted man would often sleep next to the small animal in the barn or outside to make sure that she felt safe and looked after, and to be on hand should an emergency arise. Emma happily agreed to the situation and would cuddle up to Ericus, acting as if she were with her mother. As the young moose began to get bigger, Ericus started taking on more roles which would have been up to the mother moose. He began to take Emma out into the woods for hours on end, for daily walks and to get her used to her natural environment. Whilst the two were out there, Ericus would teach the young animal how to find food, and would comfort her whenever she got scared by the other creatures of the forest. She was afraid of everything but me, said Ericus. Eventually, Emma got over her fear of the wild, and finally became big and strong enough to be released back into the forest. But even though the animal left for her natural habitat, the story didn't end there. Because Ericus had basically become Emma's surrogate mother, The then adult moose started coming back to visit the nice man. The first time that the animal came back, Ericus was confused, but at the same time ecstatic that she hadn't forgotten about him. Since she returned to the man's home often, Ericus always gave her some treats. They often spent their days playing together and even going for swims together in the lake. Although Emma was considerably better at swimming than Ericus. Because of how much Ericus cared for his adopted moose child, he knew that he had to do something about the hunters so that she didn't end up like her mother. Deciding to take action, the animal lover invited all the local hunters for a meal one night. So that he could speak to them, he told them all about Emma and the special bond that they had formed. He explained how he had raised the moose from a baby after she had lost her mother, and he begged the hunters not to hurt Emma in any way, so that she could keep living her life in the best possible way that she could. After hearing the story and the man's pleas, all of the hunters were moved. They agreed to leave Emma alone, and some of the men even decided to give up hunting altogether because of Emma's story. "I'm her world now, and she is mine," said Ericus. "Sometimes I wonder, was it me who saved her, or is it the other way around?" As the time has passed, Emma has turned into a fully grown adult moose. But the last time she visited Ericus, she had a surprise for him. The kind man realized that Emma looked considerably bigger than normal, and he began to suspect that she might be pregnant with her own little one. After discovering this, Ericus was more than thrilled about the prospect of having a baby moose around the home again. Plus, he knew all of the tricks and tips should Emma need a hand in raising her baby. Thanks to this amazing and selfless man, Emma was given a second chance at life and has even gone on to use that chance to bring in a new generation of moose, one that will hopefully continue the tradition of visiting Ericus. "She turned my life upside down. Being a man, I became a mother to a moose. I never thought that in a million years I could experience something so amazing. I'm truly grateful for this opportunity and have so much appreciation for nature," said Ericus. And he couldn't be happier with how things turned out in the end. What an amazing story. This story teaches us that even wild animals could form an intimate bond with humans. What would you do if you came across a wild moose? Would you dare to come that close? Let me know what you thought about this video in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to get even more amazing content. Thanks for watching. See you next time.